Aeneid, Book 2, 228 to 249. So, following the death of Laocoon, then indeed what happens? A novus pavor, a strange panic, insinuat, steals in, insinuates itself through the fear-ridden breasts to all, probably dative of possession, possibly dative of reference. Notice also with insinuat, just like the sinewy snakes, this fear isn't physical; it's a real metaphorical fear, real fear, and it's also as a metaphor referring to the snakes. And they declare, they bear indirect statement clause that laokon, accusative subject phrase, deservingly has expiated, has paid for, object phrase neuter singular, his guilt. Who, laokon, that's why it's masculine singular, who outraged, this is interesting because it's subjunctive, and it's subjunctive for what reason? It's subordinate to the expendice indirect statement clause, who outraged the sacred wood with his spear and hurled, this is why it's still perfect subjunctive because it's subordinate to expendice, who hurled his guilty or crime-ridden spear into the horse's back, dative of direction. They shout, they raise a great cry, indirect statement clause, that the simulacrum, which is the image, ducendum, add an essay to it because it's indirect statement clause, should be brought into the seats, and the divine authority of the goddess. Should be brought to the seats, which is another word for temples, and that the indirect statement clause here, subject phrase noumena, the divine authorities of the goddess, supply an essay with a randa, must needs be prayed for. So we divide the walls and we open up the fortifications of the city. Two types of walls, two types of fortification, inner ring, outer ring. All akingunt, gird themselves, dative of purpose, to the work, and they subjiciunt, they put under, lapsus, a gliding of wheels to the feet, dative of purpose, dative of reference. And they intendant stretch out stupia vincula, hempen bounds or ropes to its dative purpose, dative direction, to its neck, um, semicolon, the fatalis machina, the fateful machine, scandat, scales the walls, pregnant with men, feta referring to machina. The boys around and the unwedded girls sing sacred songs, and they rejoice to touch the rope with their hand, ablative of means phrase. Illa, referring to the machina, the horse, it moves on, and minans, threateningly it glides into the middle of the city. Notice in labatur, compound verb form, taking dative as the object. O fatherland, O Troy, apostrophe talking to what isn't there. Home of the gods and the walls of Dardanians, of the Troys, incluta, well known in the war. 4 times on the very threshold itself of the gate it stood still. So this is a prophecy, an omen. Entries are very important. Don't stub your toe entering a door. This is an omen. And 4 times the arms dedere, it's syncopated for dederunt, gave forth a sonatum, a clash in the womb. However, instamus, present. Notice how definite it is, how vivid. However, we press on. Unthoughtful takes the genitive of, and blind by infatuation, by furor. And we placed, then you go back to the perfect, we placed and we place the object phrase, the unlucky. It's a two termination adjective. This is the neuter. Actually, infix works for everything. The unlucky monster, portent, image, right? In the ablative sacred citadel. Even then, Cassandra, she was a mess. You should read the notes. Unlocks her lips with the fatal things to come. Not ever to be believed, however, because that's a participle referring to Cassandra, by the Trojans at the order of the god. We, O miserable ones to whom that day was the last, we wreathe the Delubra, the shrines of the gods, short for Deorum, with festival frond throughout the city. Well, pretty shocking. We kind of know what's happening. There's plenty of omens, there's plenty of illusion, there's plenty of words that talk about the dangers to come, that these aren't just a narrative. He's binding into the narrative concepts of foreshadowing, and in this case, a very sad foreshadowing. So, what will occur? We already know what's going to occur, but what will happen to Aeneas? How's he going to get out of this? How's he going to get into this? How are the Greeks going to get out of it? How are they going to get into the city? All of these questions and more will be answered next time we turn in, true believers. And until that time, Excelsior.